Hello and welcome to the Angus Report. I'm your host, Clint Mefford, and we're bringing you the latest cattle news and education. This week, we discuss traceability. We receive an update from American Angus Association CEO Mark McCully. Angus Link is adding value to commercial producers' calves in Texas, and we visit with Certified Angus Beef President John Stika. This is the Angus Report. With recent announcements from the USDA on animal disease traceability, Chelsea Good, the Vice President of Government and Industry Affairs at the Livestock Marketing Association, or LMA, explains some of the current federal rules with regard to official livestock identification.
As we talk about animal disease traceability and official ID, it only relates to a pretty limited population of the cattle. Right now, our ADT, or animal disease traceability rule, is a federal rule that relates to cattle that are crossing state lines. For beef cattle, it's only sexually intact beef cattle 18 months of age and older, or for dairy cattle, it's dairy cattle of any age crossing state lines. And if either of those are the case, if they're sexually intact adult beef cattle or dairy cattle that are moving interstate, they do need to be officially identified, and that's been the federal rule since 2013. What is changing is what counts as official identification, and moving away from the metal bright tags counting as official animal ID, and instead what USDA wants to move to is by 2023, only electronic RFID tags are going to count as official ID.
There are currently two different electronic identification technologies available on the market: low frequency and ultra high frequency.
We've had low frequency RFID for quite a while. Low frequency works well for cattle that are moving single file, but ultra high frequency RFID has the ability to read groups of cattle, which, especially as you're talking about younger animals or cattle that are moving in a livestock auction environment in groups, that has some different functionalities than the low frequency RFID.
The USDA has voiced that at this time they don't have a preference on which technology is used for official ID purposes. This could have some potential implications in the market when thinking about how this technology will be applied.
There is hope from some that moving from the metal bright tags to electronic tags will improve the speed at which those tags can be read. But there's also concern about the challenges that come along with technology, especially if you think about the fact that USDA has said they're not going to pick a technology that they're supportive of. At this point, there's at least two technologies, but in the future, additional technologies might be added as well. Well, think about a market environment and the fact that if you're trying to read those tags, that's going to require multiple types of readers. That's pretty challenging, and that's something that I think we need to work on, either figuring out a way to find a dual frequency tag that works well, or maybe as a cattle industry, figuring out if there's a technology that is going to be the preferred technology and trying to get a little more uniform in what we're using moving forward.
Today, the animal disease traceability program is limited to the adult and high-risk populations of beef cattle. LMA and its members are hoping it stays that way for the foreseeable future.
It is time intensive to identify animals. That requires, not just the cost of the tag and the reader, but that requires human capital time to identify animals. And for example, in a market environment, if that's where these cattle are being tagged, there's additional chance of injury to both animals and people. That's expensive. In some cases, there's actually a need to refit your facilities if you're going to be tagging significantly more animals than you've tagged previously. So those are all logistical challenges and expensive things that we need to be thinking about. As we think about our animal disease traceability program today, it is limited to the adult population, higher risk population of beef cattle. From a market perspective, we are not ready to move to mandatory identification of other classes of animals, or feeder cattle in particular. That's a huge population of livestock that it would be a major undertaking to move to mandatory ID for that class of animals.
Livestock auctions continue to be a profitable avenue for selling beef cattle, and Good reminds producers that these locations also serve as a viable option for obtaining official identification.
A lot of our animals that get identified in the United States right now, especially officially identified, end up getting officially identified at a livestock auction market. And as a producer, we are a place that you can bring livestock to sell in a competitive bidding environment to get a great price. But another benefit that you get selling your livestock at an auction market is there's a veterinarian there on site that can help the sellers and buyers make sure that they are in compliance with their animal identification requirements and also their livestock movement documentation requirements. So LMA is a big part today of making sure cattle that need to be officially ID'd are, and that'll be something that we continue to play that role in the future, especially as it relates to adult beef cattle moving interstate and those dairy cattle of any age moving interstate and making sure that they're officially identified.
Visit lmaweb.com to view recent announcements on animal disease traceability. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more Angus Report after a break.
Welcome back. From summer feeder calf sales season to the National Junior Angus Show, there is a lot happening at the association. Joining us today to give us an association update is Chief Executive Officer Mark McCully.
So lots of things going on here at the American Angus Association, and I wanted to kind of chat through some of the changes of the dollar value indexes and the things that Angus Genetics incorporated. A little update around the feeder calf market and things going on with the summer video sales and where value is being identified and premiums being paid. Visit with you about Angus Media and some of the things some changes and highlights going on there. Obviously, a significant priority around here has been the rollout of the new dollar value indexes. Leading up to that rollout in June was a significant educational effort to make sure that members and users of those numbers understood what the changes were going to be and what the significance of those changes, how that might impact their operation. The team did a wonderful job, I think, getting that information out there and making it accessible in lots of different forms and media. And at the same time now, all of the work that goes in, and many folks don't see the work that has to go in from the computer programming, the IT teams. It's really been an all-hands-on-deck kind of effort to make sure that those numbers are as accurate and as timely as they can be. I think the rollout's gone really well. The members and the users understand the numbers, understand the updates within dollar beef. They understand the new index of dollar maternal. We've also, while not printed on the registration paper, have introduced the concept of dollar combined and what that formulation is going to look like. So folks have actually started being able to do the math themselves, and we're going to start seeing dollar C, have started seeing dollar C already in advertisements and sale catalogs. As breeders have questions, as commercial cattlemen have questions, we're always here again to make sure we have educational resources available for them to get those questions answered and for them to learn more about the tools available. Our team, a number of our team have been out at a number of video sales through the summer, and I think that's always been, an opportunity. Folks are watching those sales and kind of gauging where demand is at, what are prices going to be, but not only just what are prices going to be, what are the buyers saying that they want more of, and where are the premiums at? And I think what we've seen pretty consistently, as we have in past years, is the program cattle are selling quite well. The premiums on those program cattle, by whether it's NHTC, whether it's age and source verified, known genetics, they're paying attention to the scores, the Angus Link scores, all of those things where a consignor can better differentiate their product, the value that they've put in a set of feeder cattle over the commodity. That's paying off for those commercial cattlemen. We see that throughout all of the video sales. There's lots of exciting things going on within Angus Media. Angus Beef Bulletin continues to be a really valuable resource targeted towards our commercial outfits, and the Angus Journal turns 100 this year and has been, again, a long-standing valuable resource for registered breeders of Angus cattle. The focus always has been of Angus Media is again to make sure that we're providing our members the most cutting-edge and valuable services that they can access, whether it's through print ads and some of the traditional ways, or again, whether that's website and some of the new digital options that are out there for them. So really, to be a full service, provider for helping our members be more successful in their operations. And here most recently just announced a new president for Angus Media, and Mr. Brett Spader, and we're awfully excited to have him joining the team with the expertise that he brings, the background that he brings, both on the traditional media side of things as well as technology integration, the digital side of media, and we're pretty excited having him on Team Angus. National Junior Angus Show is really a highlight of the year for all of us here in Angus. It's just a wonderful place that we have juniors and their families from all over the country come together. And of course, we think about the cattle shows, and they were impressive. The cattle in both the bred and owned, the steer show, the carcass contest, the bull show, the owned heifer show. The lineups were impressive, and the quality of the cattle were outstanding and second to none. Maybe some things that others don't see as visible are the many contests that are going on, the many leadership development opportunities for young folks, and just the sense of the networking and the friendships that are built with kids coming together with Angus cattle, making new friends from somebody maybe 19 states away from them, but those are probably lifelong friendships that they'll have for the rest of their life. So it's a wonderful event, and really it was a truly successful event that we held here just last week down in Louisville.
We check in now on the latest cattle market news with the Cattle Facts Update.
Hello and welcome to the Cattle Facts Update. I'm Patrick Linnell. Despite slow exports and record pork and poultry supplies, beef demand has continued to perform strong for the first half of 2019. The latest USDA all-fresh beef price for June came in at $5.72 per pound, down 7 cents from last year and down 18 cents from May. While the June price may sound weak by comparison, not when you put it in context. Retail prices can often be revised, but even taking it at face value, this is the first month of below year-ago retail beef prices since July 2018. Year-to-date, beef prices have averaged 16 cents above last year, and the weaker June number is also coming off a May price that was the highest since December 2015. The number of retail beef advertisements published by grocers in weekly ad circulars has been running slow for most of the year. The exception has been ground beef ads, suggesting the retailer is using deals with the more inexpensive product to entice consumers to the retail meat case. So, with less beef selling on ads, the consumer appears to be readily buying beef at the everyday price. This also means the consumer is willing to pay the premium for beef over other meats, even with the record supplies of more inexpensive pork and poultry also occupying the meat cases. Despite the blip in June, CattleFacts currently expects retail beef prices to trend steady to slightly higher than last year for the remainder of 2019, for an average of $5.75 per pound for the year. This would be 1.1% or 6 cents per pound above last year. Some warning signs are flashing in the domestic economy, and an economic slowdown could cause consumers to shy away from beef to cheaper protein alternatives. But while the risks are out there, the fact remains that the fundamentals in the economy are holding firm. Unemployment and wage growth remain favorable for consumers, and the stock market continues to grind to new highs. Beef demand will be supported as long as these trends continue. For the Angus Report and Cattle Facts, I'm Patrick Linnell.
To learn more about Cattle Facts, your leading source for beef industry market information, visit cattlefacts.com.
Next on the Angus Report, we see how Angus Link is adding value for commercial producers. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Angus Link is a program that offers seed stock breeders another path to extend their customer service to commercial buyers. Steve Knoll, owner of 2 Bar Angus in Hereford, Texas, regularly advocates for the feeder cattle program and helped one of his customers find success.
We have between 300 and 400 cows. It fluctuates depending on climate conditions. and economics and all that fun stuff that you got to do to run a business. And our goal is to sell bulls to commercial breeders so they can raise cattle that will hopefully get them at the top of the market. Me being a seed stock producer, I think Angus Link will be a benefit to the industry after we get everybody educated. Right now we're still in the early stages and people are still learning what it does, but Angus Link helps the buyers identify cattle that should perform better than the average calf on the market. It tells you they have the genetics and opportunity to outperform other cattle that are available out there, and they should be able to bring more money. And we think Angus Link will be a very good source to help sustain the demand for registered Angus seed stock and commercial Angus cattle too. Brandon Brown's been a customer of ours for about 11 years. I think he's bought over 60 bulls from us. He's been a pretty good customer, and he's always demanded what I consider industry relevant traits. And he wants high growth, he wants ease of calving, he wants traits that will make people money downstream. And what I mean by that is whenever the calves go to the feed yard, they'll still grow good. Whenever they go to the packer, they'll still harvest big ribeyes with a lot of marbling in them, and hopefully they'll go choice or prime to get a little more premium there. We talked about Angus Link a little bit. Before we had a program at one of our sales, and Brandon was very interested in it, in ways he could get more money for the cattle, just like what we try to do. You're doing the work anyway, you just try to make a little more money. And Brandon liked the idea of being rewarded. He tries to do things the right way when it comes to his cattle, and he likes the idea of being rewarded for good cattle. And Angus Link was a way that you can help identify those good cattle to potential buyers. We were excited when we heard about the program because we thought our cattle would fit that program really well. And we decided in our bull sale this last spring that we would give away 50 tags to the volume buyer in our sale, and that way there would be some new people try Angus Link. Brandon was one of the reasons I got a little more excited about it, because they told me he had some of the highest scoring cattle they've had in it yet. The herds turn black, and if you want to be different, if you want to be out front, you got to brand yourself, and you got to stay out in front. You're going to have to work at it, and Brandon's trying to do that. We think he's doing pretty well.
Visit anguslink.com for more information about the association's feeder calf program. Up next, we visit with the president of Certified Angus Beef. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Angus Report. As president of Certified Angus Beef, John Stika guides grassroots programs to deliver premium beef from family farmers and ranchers to consumers' dinner tables. He has led the brand through 12 consecutive years of record sales, helping to satisfy growing demand for great tasting beef in nearly 20,000 restaurants and grocery stores worldwide.
I never really thought that I would be, in the position that I'm in. When you're a part of something exciting and something that is growing and has a lot of dynamic activity to it, you don't spend near as much time focusing on what's next because what's going on right now is so good. If I wasn't at Certified Angus Beef today, I'm not sure I know exactly what I would be doing. This is the only place I've ever worked. I came right out of graduate school to Certified Angus Beef, and I've been here 20 years. I come from a farm. Here today we live in Northeast Ohio on 10 acres. Got just 3 cows, what 10 acres can support.
John and I really enjoy a good cup of coffee together. Our life is pretty fast-paced, so to take just a quick 10 minutes to check in with one another and sit down and have a conversation and get caught up and kind of see what are we doing, how did the day go, or what do you have in front of you for today. That's something that we really enjoy with one another, and we really try to make time for that.
We have 3 boys, Tavis, Gavin, and McCoy, and Deanna and I spend a lot of time doing whatever they're doing. We're at kind of an interesting phase. Our youngest one is graduating high school this year and headed to Kansas State to go to school. And so we're just months away from being empty nesters, and so maybe our interests will change. But we've spent, the last 18 years, Little League, youth football, wrestling, you name it, we've been a part of it.
I think what you get to see with John in his professional life are characteristics that really come and are at the forefront as a father and as a leader of our family. He is a very compassionate person. He is a person that asks a lot of questions and wants to understand what is going on in the lives of those around him.
Well, outside of the office, I enjoy a number of things. Probably involve family, or they involve livestock in one form or another. I would hope that a legacy for me at Certified Angus Beef is just one of growth and brand equity. That the brand got better while I was here. That the brand delivered more value than it did yesterday while I was here. This brand is so much bigger than any one person that, if my time at Certified Angus Beef is tied with a period of success, then I'd be tickled to death. I have a special place in my heart for the Angus cow in particular, maybe for a different reason than those who raise Angus cattle for a living. The reason she's so important to me is because I think as we look back into what really allowed this brand to be successful, we talk a lot about marbling today, we talk a lot about consumer demand. I think that's very valid. But I try to go back to when McCully and the founding fathers of Certified Angus Beef were truly trying to get this brand moving forward. Producers weren't focused on quality inherently. They weren't being paid for quality. And so the question becomes, if producers weren't being paid for quality, why were they moving towards Angus? And it's because the Angus cow solved a lot of problems. Producers could see what was in it for them before they ever saw any value in a quality focus. And by focusing on those production traits that Angus cow gave, they indirectly were selecting for carcass merit along the way. Angus to me means, it's where we start, and you look at where we're at today, it's because breeders in the breed, have focused on what consumers really value.
Well, we can all thank John for all of his hard work and leadership on behalf of the brand and the association. And that's a wrap for this week's Angus Report. Tune in next week for industry-leading news and education, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Angus TV, for more highlights from the association. We'll see you next week.